So there's an old saying, don't count the days, instead make your days count. Counting something can go two ways. It can turn things into meaningless and mindless numbers just because of stats on a chart. Or it can be very meaningful. It can be very empowering when you realize that each and every one of those things count. Even if one were missing, you'd notice. Think about the Torah scroll. If there's just one letter missing, or even one letter that has a mark on it, or it's scratched, the entire Torah scroll is invalid. The same perhaps with politics. A lot of people don't feel like their vote matters. I've heard a lot of people say, do you really think that my vote will sway it in either direction? It's only when elections are close and things are down to the wire that all of a sudden interest perks up and the turnout rises. All of a sudden people feel that their vote may be a deciding vote. You find the same thing with job satisfaction. Of course, money is the biggest motivator, but you might be surprised how high recognition and appreciation rank on people's job satisfaction measures. People like to feel that they're wanted, that they're needed, and that they can make a significant difference, a significant impact on others, and people will recognize that and value that. It's one of the best, and I would say for employers, the cheapest ways that you can uplift your employee morale. Well, let's talk about this week's Torah portion. It's called Tisa, and it talks about the census. God tells Moshe to count the Jewish people, but the way they're counted and the word the Torah uses is really important. The word Tisa can mean to count, but in a deeper sense, it means to uplift. Let me tell you a story. Shlomo Tulushkin was the Rebbe's accountant. One day, still in his working years, he suffered a stroke. He was in the hospital, and the Rebbe's office called every day to see how he was doing. A few days later, after he regained consciousness, the Rebbe's office said that they had an accounting question. Maybe it was a tax question. Shlomo's son Joseph was a little taken aback. Come on, he thought. My father is still in recovery. He's still in the hospital. Couldn't this wait? But Shlomo the accountant, from his hospital bed, answered the question and told the Rebbe's office what needed to be done. Sometime later, Shlomo's son Joseph talked with the Rebbe's secretaries. What was so important about that accounting question? Couldn't it wait? My dad was in the hospital. He had a stroke. The Rebbe's secretary told him that they actually didn't have an accounting question, but the Rebbe told them to come up with some kind of question and to call the hospital and ask Shlomo. The question was bogus. It was made up. And then Joseph finally understood. He realized why the Rebbe insisted they ask his father an accounting question. You see, his father must have been doubtful and worried in the hospital bed. Will I be able to go back to work? Will I be useful? Will I ever be needed again? And the Rebbe's office calling was one of the reassurance. Yes, he was needed. His advice was sought, and he'd be able to go back to work. That question wasn't about tax. It was about confidence, and such a question is uplifting. Now let's go back to this week's Torah portion and the census of the Jewish people. Here's what was different about the census. God told Moses to tell the Jews to each give a half a shekel coin to the upkeep of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. Those coins would be counted, so they would get the numbers of the Jewish people. The usual Hebrew word for counting isn't used here. Instead, the Torah uses the word kisisa or kitisa, which means to count, but it also means to uplift. The Nazis dehumanized people by diminishing them down to an insignificant number. The Torah tells us to do the exact opposite when counting people. Have them contribute something. They should feel needed. Help them realize that they matter. Making people feel like they count is one of the most uplifting things that you can do. I want you to think about all the people in your life. Think about the people who you come across, the people who feel lost in the crowd. Some of you perhaps are in class with other people who feel lost, or you're at work with people who feel lost, or you're part of a community of people who feel lost. Often, and maybe sometimes, the person, the professor, the rabbi, the community leader has no idea who you are. You know how it feels when you feel like you're recognized, when you feel that your presence or your absence is felt, when you feel like you're making a difference. Possibly the Rebbe's most often quoted Rambam was that each person ought to always view the world in exact balance. Each deed, and hopefully a positive one, can tip the scale to make the difference. Think of the ways that you can make a difference, not just another number. More importantly, think of the ways that you can help those around you feel that they matter. Show them that they are needed, that they are cherished, that they are wanted. Tisa means to count, and it means to uplift. Make people count is the most uplifting thing that you can do, both for you and for that person. Try it. I'm Rabbi Yisrael Bernath. Shabbat Shalom.